Hey everybody, it's Mark Pattison back again with another great episode of Finding Your Summit, all about people overcoming adversity and finding their way. And this week, I've got another amazing guest. We're going to get to John Foley in just a minute, but as always, please remember to go in and check out the new and updated website, www.markpattisonnfl.com. And there, again, you can see the journey as it unfolds for Everest next March 2021. There was an obstacle that got in the way. We had to do a pivot, which we're going to talk more about pivots today on the pod. And we reset, and the goals, again, are the same, except that we're going to add on Lhotse in addition to Mount Everest, all within 24 hours, which is going to be really cool. Of course, you can always find the podcast there as well. I would always appreciate if you told your friends, you went in, you gave it a ratings and review. It's not about me being more popular. It's about popularity on iTunes, so more people can be inspired like they are today with my guest, like John Foley. John, how you doing?
Mark, glad to be here.
Hey,
Thank
man.
you.
Yeah, hey, listen, this is great. I have never talked to a pilot of the Blue Angels, and let me tell you the significance of that. I lived in Seattle, Washington, okay? And you're probably going to know what I'm going to say. And I lived in a community right near Lake Washington, and every year tradition, and I think it still goes on today,
Yes.
they run the Blue Angels over because we have hydroplane races, Seafair, during our August. And so it's a huge event, and it's a big thrill when all the Blue Angels come up to Seattle, and they come in formation, and they used to literally fly over and bank left right over the top of my house. It could have been you. I was up there giving a high five, a virtual high five to.
Oh, yeah. It was definitely me for a few years.
Wow.
Yes.
Well, so how, I mean, as we're going to get into a lot of what you're up to, today, glad to be here is kind of your motto. But I want to ask, like, how do you even become a Blue Angel, and what is the motivation? I know there wasn't a want ad on Craigslist or something. How does that all work?
Yeah, well, first off, Seattle was our favorite place to fly, by the way. So right there on the log boom, blowing down over, where exactly was your house?
Well, back in the day, there's the place called Sand Point.
Yes.
It used to be a naval base, right?
Exactly, yeah.
Yep. And so I lived right above that, kind of overlooking the water there, and these planes would come zipping right up, and going north, and then bank left and come back south.
Well, I hope we shook your windows. That was one of my goals, just to shake the trees, the windows, put smoke oil right on top of you.
Well, you did all those things.
That was a blast. But getting back to your question, all right, Blue Angels are Navy fighter pilots. So we come from the instructor ranks usually. Bottom line is fly jets off aircraft carriers. That was always my dream as a little boy. I mean, I remember, Mark is 12 years old. My dad took me to an air show. Now, I loved my dad. He was my hero, right? He takes me to this air show. And he happened to be an Army officer and an engineer. So I'm thinking, well, that's what I'm going to be in life. He takes me to this air show. I'll never forget this day. I'm looking up in the sky, and I see these 6 magnificent blue jets. And you know how you just feel it? You just don't see them. You can feel it.
Yeah.
I mean, the smoke oil, the noise, the thunder. I remember something lit up in my heart that day. Not my head. It was here, right? And I just turned to my dad. I said, Dad, I'm going to do that. 12-year-old kid. No idea how to get there, right? And when you think about summits and, overcoming obstacles, man, did I have a lot of challenges. I got medically disqualified. There's all kinds of stuff we can talk about. But the bottom line is I had that dream as a 12-year-old. It took me 18 years. And then I'm in that cockpit at age 30, flying that blue jet right over Seattle.
Well, let's talk about that a little bit more, because I want to go one layer down. So you need a roadmap to get to where you want to go, right? You can't visualize how it's all going to play out if you don't have the steps, how to actually get there.
Perfect.
So 18 years later, and having to go through all kinds of different obstacles, what is the path? What are the qualifications? So let's say there's another aspiring Top Gun type pilot that is out there that's listening to this podcast, and they want to know, like, what are at least the initial steps?
Yes.
Like, how does that all work?
Yeah. First thing is you got to go to college, right? And there's different routes, okay? Because you need to become an officer and then get a pilot slot.
Yeah.
And so a couple ways to do that. For me, I went to the Naval Academy. I decided, let me go to the academies. By the way, I applied for Air Force, got rejected.
Yeah.
Okay. But ended up going to Naval Academy. That's a good way to go. But you have to, when you go to the academies, at the end of your third year, they rank you 1 through 1,000, and every day you know where that is. And when they call what they call service selection, where they go to the number one person and say, what do you want? You want to be a Navy SEAL? You want to be a pilot? What is it you want to do? Go submarines? First person gets to pick. And then after that, they start running out of slots. You get about 250 pilot slots. So you just got to hope that you high enough up to get the slot, and you have to be medically qualified, which means good eyes, basically, and other stuff, right? So bottom line is, but there's many paths to that, right? So if there's someone young out there thinking about it, never give up, all right? Because I initially applied to the academies, got rejected, so I went to Colorado, played ball at CU for a year, walked on, all right? And I said, that was a great experience. I went through ROTC. You could go that route. So there's different paths, but the bottom line is go to college, get your degree, and then get in the program that the Navy has for pilots. First step. Okay. Second step, you go to flight training, and you got to do as well as you can. Typically, you're not sure what airplane you're going to fly. Blue Angels need to fly fighters, okay, or tactical aircraft. So you got to get your butt in a tactical aircraft, an F-18, something like that. And that's what I did. I flew actually A-7s off the Carrier Enterprise. Flew in the movie Top Gun. Did you ever see the movie Top Gun?
Great movie.
So I did some of the real flying in that.
Yeah.
Now here's the deal.
I thought that was Tom Cruise.
Well, yeah, no, we flew Tom. He got sick, by the way. He did puke. But he was a good guy because he cleaned it up himself, of course. No, Tom's a great guy.
Yeah.
No, the bottom line is you got to pay your dues, like in football, like anything else. You work your way up. So you're a student pilot. You go through selection processes. You get your tactical aircraft. Hopefully it's a fighter. Then you go fly jets off aircraft carriers for about 3 years. That's the fleet. That's out there doing the real thing. And we have a saying, if you're still alive after 3 years, you figured something out, right? And then we usually go to the instructor ranks. So you go to Top Gun.
Yeah.
You go to what they call the Fleet Replacement Squadron. That's where you train people not how to fly, but how to fight the airplane. That pool of people, those instructor ranks, or the people who are really kind of doing the job in the fleet, they get to apply to become the Blue Angels. And it's a selection process. And at the end of the day, it takes about a year or two. And the team picks its own replacements. So it's one of the few things in the entire Navy where the replacements are picked by the current team, not by Washington.
So let's go back to the movie, because I know this does happen. There's crossover into real life, and in that real life, there are accidents that happen, and you're taking an aircraft that's going at a tremendous rate of speed, and you're banking these things. You're coming, low to obstacles in the ground and other things like that. And did you ever encounter anything where you had to eject, or your teammates had to eject? And I mean, it's a real life situation.
Oh, yeah, all the time. Now, the good news for me is I didn't have to eject, but 3 times I wanted to, and I couldn't. And what I mean by that is there's an ejection envelope, which means you have to be at a certain altitude, certain airspeed. You don't want to be inverted 50 feet off the ground. You eject, you just become a dot, right? So the idea is you need to be in a certain envelope. So I had 3 times where I wasn't sure I was going to make it or not, live or die kind of moment. And I couldn't eject. There just wasn't enough time. And I'm still here. So, a little bit of luck. But what it teaches you is just how precious life is. After those moments, you realize just how special today is. You look out there at the sun, you look out at what we have. I remember ice cream tastes so much better. After you survive one of those things. But I will say that that's not the norm, okay? So, yes, on my team in 1990, that's when I was selected. Number 2, Chase Mosley, a good friend of mine, they actually, they were doing a training mission over the desert in El Centro as a Blue Angel, and we hit, right? He was doing a practice clear maneuver, which is, how do you get out of a situation, basically. They hit, the airplanes are tied together, they're going in inverted. And by the way, for your audience, I'm talking with my hands, all fighter pilots. Yeah. We talk with our hands, right? And it's, all of a sudden Chase ejects. So ejection means you pull a handle, you're on a rocket motor, blows you out of the airplane, right? So he gets blown out of the airplane. The boss recovers, which is amazing. The other airplane recovered. And Chase, survived. The seats are pretty powerful. It's kind of cool. We did a debrief that day. Believe me, we can talk about debrief later, about what went wrong, what do you learn. We went flying the next day. Okay, same guy, same scenarios. How would you like to be that boss where you trust your wingman who just hit you the day before, and you're like, no, we're going airborne again. Now, that's actually very special that the Blue Angels can do that. In a normal military squadron, you would stand down for a while. But we have this debrief process where you quickly learn what happened, how do we fix it, and you move forward. So that's what we did there. But I don't want the people to get the wrong impression. I like to say what we do is not dangerous. It's just inherently unforgiving.
Yeah.
That's the key.
But at the same time, you're still talking about a multi-million, I don't know how many millions. Like when somebody ejects, you're talking about a plane that's going to go down, crash, and disintegrate.
Yeah, we call it a smoking hole, by the way.
Yeah, smoking hole.
Because that's what it makes.
Yeah, I mean, it's a big hole, and it's a big check, right? That is now has to be paid because you have to replace that, right?
Yeah. Well, it's like anything in life and in business, right? There's costs to doing business. So the key there is, as a pilot, you do not want to eject. Okay, you want to save the airplane. You want to salvage the situation. Usually, there's a mechanical problem of some sort that sets these up, but there's usually pilot error. It's just human beings, human error. Okay, and when you unpack this, we call it a chain of events. There's certain chains, and what the idea is, you want to break the chain. You don't want to get to what we're talking about. You don't want to get to what they call it a Class A mishap, where you lose an airplane or you lose a life. Okay, so the military and the Blue Angels are 100 first priority safety. Okay, and so you're looking at that, and it is extremely safe what we do. I mean, I did that. Okay, you just are on the edge. So when you're on the edge, and you know this in your life, okay, you know this climbing. Okay, is climbing dangerous? The question I would ask you: how many people have died trying to do Everest, which you're going to do? Mm-hmm. What's your mindset on that? I guarantee you it's the same flying the jet.
Yeah, I mean, really, what it is stacking the odds in your favor.
There you go.
Right, and doing all the preparation work that you need to make that happen. I want to talk about today's environment. I want to shift out of this a bit. This podcast will run in a couple weeks. Today is June 24th, I believe, 2020. And we are in the midst of Black Lives Matter. We're in the midst of COVID-19. We're in the midst of financial crisis. A lot of people losing their job.
Yes.
And my sense is that there's a lot of parallel between what you were taught as a very disciplined pilot back in the day to what you do today. You've got this tagline, you're wearing a t-shirt, it says, glad to be here, right? And so I want to transition a little bit into, how you see the planet today. And there's a lot of people that are hurting. Yeah. And what you and I can do to impart some knowledge around purpose, process, impact, making a pivot, visualizing where their life is going to go with all this uncertainty.
Yeah.
So let's unpack all that stuff, right? I've put a lot in there. But so I guess the first thing is you have a elite performance center where you go out and you help coach people. And so in today's environment, let's jump into like, what are you seeing and what type of people are coming to you and how can you help?
Yeah, absolutely. So what we have is a lot of uncertainty and fear. Okay, it's out there. It's huge. I feel it. You feel it. Everybody feels it. So how do we overcome fear is the first step, right? And then how do you take uncertainty and turn that into a positive instead of a negative? Okay, I actually believe uncertainty has opportunity in it. At the same side of the coin is it has challenge in it. The first thing to address with what's going on in the world today is, first off, compassion and awareness. Okay, there's some tough things out there, all right? Black Lives Matter. I mean, you and I played ball, okay? We know what it's like when you're a team, all right? You don't know the color, I didn't, of the skin of the person next to me. They were just a person. They were a teammate. And I would hope, and I'm glad that we're bringing this awareness out in the country, that everybody needs to be treated safely. We need a safe environment. That's, by the way, one of my number one, I have what I call 5 dynamics to create a high-performance team. One of them is you need a safe environment. And a safe environment doesn't mean just physically safe, psychological safety. So let's get out there and let's continue making this a playing field, a level playing field for everybody. And that means let's be caring and let's be compassionate. COVID. What's COVID? It's fear. It's not even a disease, okay? Yes, there is a virus, and yes, there is challenges, but what you're really seeing, in my opinion, is a classic example of fear. And when fear hits a nation, when fear hits businesses, when fear hits your family, when fear hits yourself, what's the result usually? Stuckness. People freeze, okay?
Yeah.
I mean, the natural reaction to fear, most people are going to freeze, all right? And it's usually a misperception, by the way. What I've learned in my life with fear is the world is actually coming from us, not at us. But that's a big statement I just made. If you can truly grasp what I just said, the world's coming from us, not at us, it'll change the way you respond to situations. If you think the world's coming at you, like COVID is out there and it's going to get you, you've got to deal with fear, okay? Because fear is an outside force coming at you that I don't have control of. Okay, bingo, right? So what I try to do when I talk to the companies I speak with, the people I speak with, is we have to understand how we perceive. How does the mind perceive the outside world? And first thing is, the truth is it's coming from you. So you do have some power and some control. It's things you have to assess. So what I start with is gratitude. And that's why I'm wearing this shirt. See, glad to be here is about a grateful mindset. Glad to be here is about looking at the world as the glass half full, not half empty. Same event, okay, two different perspectives can be achieved. And what I've learned through this research, and you think about neuropsychology and all the things we're learning about the human brain, it's very interesting, Mark. The area of your brain that lights up when you're in a grateful state of mind is the same area of your brain where perceptions come from. So what we're talking about, how you perceive the world. When you're in a grateful state of mind, you will perceive a conversation differently than when you're in an anger state of mind. Mm-hmm. Now, here's the other cool part, generosity. I mean, I believe, you believe, giving the world. How are we going to inspire others? How can we make the world a better place? We started this Glad to Be Here Foundation, my wife and I, and we've now been able to sponsor 380-something charities, of which Higher Ground, which we're sitting in right now, is one of those, right? And when you're in that state of mind, that's the area of your brain where confidence and self-esteem come from. So let's connect the dots. If you're in a grateful state of mind and a generous state of mind, you will see things others don't see, and you'll have the confidence to take action. That's innovation. That's adapting. That's pivoting. That's making something positive out of the situation.
Yeah. There's a lot there. We're ready to unpack it. So the first thing you were talking about is, in this day and age, is really coming together. So there's really no colored lines, right? I had a former teammate of mine. He happened to be a number 1 draft pick as well the year after I went into the NFL by the Cincinnati Bengals. And what we really got in this whole concept about was the huddle.
Yeah.
And back in the huddle, when and not so much on the defensive side, although they do come into a huddle, but on the offensive side, the quarterback, brings them back in, and then you, as you're sitting in your circle, we're holding hands.
Yes.
Right? And so it didn't really matter. Just as you said, it's your teammate, it's your brother. It's not somebody, it doesn't matter where you're from, anything. There's a common goal, there's a common cause, and we're in there all together. And so really what we're trying to create now, and hopefully with all this this awareness, is a global huddle.
Yes.
And I think that we're one step at least in that direction, even though there's all these protests and it's gotten ugly and smashing windows and everything else, but it's almost like it's had to go to that level, right, to have that kind of impact for people to pay attention. The second thing I wanted to talk about is where when you have this intersection where fear grips you, right, and you're talking about being stuck, and there's nothing great that has ever been accomplished when you're in quicksand, right? Not just stuck, but sinking.
Yeah. And
that fear mentality never serves anybody any. And usually what it surrounds is either events, which also then creates anxiety.
Yep.
So it's usually about events in the past or events in the future that you can't control anyhow, right? So now where you're really locked in is, can you be present?
Yes.
Right? Yeah. And so then we get into this whole world of gratefulness. Yeah. And to me, the gratefulness is a component. I had a guy, Jerry Robinson, All-Pro, 10-year, played for the Raiders, teammate of mine. And I had him on the podcast. I said, Jerry, how you doing? He goes, Mark, every day I wake up with an attitude of gratitude.
Beautiful.
And that's what I said. That is beautiful. And what that associates, at least for me, is empathy.
Yeah.
Right? And I love what you said, because it's really hard to be grateful and pissed off at the same time, right?
You can't actually.
You can't do that, right?
Yeah.
So there's a mountaineer friend that was just spent the last 5 days here, and we did some crazy mountains here in the valley, in Sun Valley, and we had a lot of just, I call it trail talk. Right.
Oh, nice.
So you're on the trail, either he's in front, I'm in front, and then talking about a large range of different subjects. And I want to talk to you about more the how, right? Because you have some really cool taglines in there about, the kind of the mindset that you want to be in, but like, now, how do you get there? And one of the words that you talked about is awareness, right? And so we were going through, and I was telling him, because he's a little bit younger than me, and that I've been through it all, right? And so I was giving him some of my examples of what the word awareness means in terms of how to get to that word grateful, empathy, unstuck, fearless, those types of things. So I want to turn around on you, right? And just give me a couple nuggets on how you become more self-aware.
Well, let's start with empathy, because I think you're dead on. What's the difference between empathy and compassion?
Empathy, and I kind of see them as the same.
They're very similar. So I didn't know this. I was at it was a Higher Ground event, I'm pretty sure. It was another charity here in the Valley. There's so many nonprofits, right, that are doing great work. And it was the Dalai Lama's translator. Wow. He happened to be the speaker, right? And he defined it as this. He said, empathy, you can feel the other person's pain, or you feel the other person's struggles. It's a feeling, okay? You're empathetic. You can feel it. Compassion involves empathy, but it goes one step higher. It includes wisdom. It includes the wisdom to take action. And to me, that's what we need in the world. And that's what you need when you're trying to get out of fear, all right? You need compassion, because that involves the ability to feel, but also to have the knowledge and the wisdom to move through it.
So how do you become more compassionate?
Oh, beautiful. So I start with my glad to be here wake up every morning, okay? So we talked about, who was the ball player again? I just forgot his name.
Jerry Robinson.
Yeah. Know the name for sure. Jerry Robinson. So I wake up every morning, and I've trained my brain to wake up happy, okay? And the way I've trained it is that the minute I wake up, the minute my eyes become conscious, I just say, what am I grateful for? I mean, that's what I've trained my brain to do.
Wait. What did you say this morning on June 24th?
Yeah, no, it was perfect. Well, I'm home. We're in Sun Valley. It's gorgeous. I'm there with my wife. Okay, now, normally I travel 300 days out of the year almost. I'm doing 100, 120 events. This is back when we were doing events all over the world. Now we're doing them all virtually. And by the way, I'm busier now. The virtual stuff has really taken off. But the idea here is that, number one for me was I was just home. I was grateful to be home. Yeah. I was grateful to have my wife next to me. Then I'm usually something about health. I'm grateful that I'm breathing. I'm grateful that I'm healthy. I look out my window, beautiful day. So usually it's the present moment, all right? But then what I've trained myself to do, and this is kind of cool, try this out. And I was just reading the CEO of Microsoft, Natalie, right? How's he say his name?
Yeah.
I'm not sure. I was just reading. He actually heard about this and does it every morning, where here's my technique, okay? When you get out of bed, you need a trigger, okay? You need a trigger. So my trigger is left foot hits the floor first. You can come up with any trigger you want, right? Yeah. But I've trained my brain that when my left foot hits the floor, that tells me today's magical. Today's not normal. And what it tells me is, what am I looking forward to? So this morning when I woke up, first I said, I'm grateful to be home. When my left foot hit the floor, I said, I'm looking forward to Mark's podcast. I said, I can't wait.
Good answer right there.
I said, I can't wait. By the way, there was about 5 other things I was looking forward to too. Yeah. But that's what you do, and you'll find your mind will change.
Interesting that you say that, because I have my little acronym is called FOF.
Okay.
Feet on floor.
I love it.
Yeah. And the reason why that is because anybody can put feet on floor, but my intention is to activate my brain to make me happy, right? Is that various times of the year, we're a day or two ago, we were at the longest day of the year, right? Solstice.
Yeah.
And then we're going to come flipping it back, in 6 months in December, it's going to be the opposite of that. So it's dark, late and it gets dark early again. So it's harder to get out of bed because you don't have the light shining through the windows. And so what I like to do is I have my FOF every single morning. I have all my clothes ready to go. I put on my gym stuff and I go down and I do an hour and a half of Peloton.
Nice.
Lifting weights and jumping. But whatever that is, it doesn't matter. You can go out and hug a tree. But it's a routine that I activate my mind, my body, my soul. And at the end of that, I've never come back in and said, that sucked. That's the worst thing I've ever done. I'm always in a better mood, and it sets my soul for that day, for the right kind of mindset that I need to do to go attack whatever the things that I need to go do. People can do that at night or during the day, but that is my routine. I've read books and listened to a lot of podcasts where people do their 10 minutes of meditation, or maybe it's yoga, but something that is engaging the brain and taking you to that happy place.
Yes.
Because sometimes for a lot of people, it's hard to wake up super jacked up, right?
Yeah.
And you need to do something to trigger it. A cup of coffee, reading a book. I mean, there's no magic answer to it other than action creates the reaction.
Yes. And I love the word you used, routine. You don't do this just once. You don't do it ad hoc. It's a routine. And your morning routine, I think, is really critical. I've got one too. Now, mine takes 7 minutes. You're an hour and a half, man. You are tough, dude. Okay. But I've found the way to reduce. I love it if I have that much time. Actually, I do have time. See, that's a limiting belief. You don't, right? Yeah. But I've loved it. What I've done is I've kind of boiled it down to 7 minutes, because then I got no excuses. Every day I can do this, right? And it starts with what we talked about, FOF. I love that, feet on floor. I'm going to use that, right? The minute my foot hits the ground, so my gratitude routine's done. That takes seconds, okay? Gratitude and appreciation. So I've nailed that already. I'm already looking forward to the day. What am I looking forward to? Bam, I've planted that seed in my mind. Then I actually go outside, and it doesn't matter what the temperature is. Actually, I like it in the winter. I like going out where there's snow on the ground. I'm in bare feet, okay? And I just stand there and I do a 7-minute stretching routine that involves bowing. I have a bow practice.
Yeah.
I have a stretching practice. I go to the 4 different directions, and I have a mental meditation practice. This is all combined, right? So when I meditate, I'm not cross-legged sitting on the floor all the time. I can do that. But I'm in this meditative state that I call dynamic focus. So I'm in the state, but I'm moving my body. And I've got a very specific routine that I go through. And part of it always ends with me standing on my head. I do headstands.
Love that.
And you got to reverse the energy in your body. And I just did it. We had that freak snowstorm about 4 weeks ago or something, 3 weeks ago. I mean, it was, when I saw that, I was like, great, honey, quick, wake up. Get a picture of me doing a headstand in the snow. And we've got it. I'll share it with you.
I love that. I love that. God, just great stuff. Okay, I want to talk about, well, first of all, I want to go back one last thing on awareness. So it was interesting that there's a lot of things people can do, and there's no one set perfect thing. It's whatever activates your brain, your mind, and your soul, right? And so this guy's going through some relationship issues, and I really equated it to, again, the way we all see the world and the way we equate, the human race with a lot of the negativity around Black Lives Matter, and just we haven't elevated enough Black people or people of color to certain positions. And where this came really apparent this weekend, and there's a book that I read several years ago that really transformed the way I think communicate with other people, and has really heightened and improved my relationships so that I can really understand the other side. And that's this book called The 5 Love Languages.
Oh, yes.
I don't know if you've read that, but so often it's, you and I are sitting having a conversation like this, and then I'm saying, well, John, you just don't really understand what I'm talking about, right? And it's your problem, and it's your fault, and everything else. And that's so often the reason why companies, businesses, productivity, everything else gets locked off, right? And what this book does is really we all communicate in a different way. It's really understanding what you respond to best versus what works for me. And so if I understand that, we're not talking Chinese and Russian, we're talking English together, right? So anyways, just a little thought there.
I love it. I found too that, I don't know if this is your experience, but I connect to males easier. I mean, I don't know if it's the sports, I don't know what it is, but I still have challenges connecting with my wife. I mean, I try, but I see the world differently. right? I know that. And so what I've learned is instead of trying to be right, who cares about being right? Can I see the world through her eyes? And if I can do that, it's actually called exchange yourself for others. There's a technique on that. Then you start to become more aware.
Yeah.
And I'm still working on it. I haven't figured it out yet. I'm working every day, trying to become more aware of how the other person sees the situation.
Well, I think that's easy because I mean, it's hard to get there for all of us because you see somebody throwing a brick through a window at Nordstrom's and you're going, what the, and you're not understanding their plight. Exactly. When I was talking to my buddy, Joe Kelly, former #1 draft pick of the Cincinnati Bengals, I said, Joe, what is it like to be black? Now, this is a guy that grew up in South LA, right? Back in the day, there, gangbangers and everything else. A #1 draft pick, right? Has made plenty of money and has done very well for himself. 7 different times he's been pulled over by the police. Twice he's been put on his knees, and once he's had the barrel of the gun. Now, I can tell you that as a white guy, that I've never had that happen to me before.
Right.
And so, again, it's just being made like what was, being empathetic, right? Compassionate, of understanding your position to make sense of what they're going through, which is the whole magic about when people start to come together and hold hands, and now you're back in the huddle.
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly.
Okay, so let's get into something that we were starting to get into a little bit ago, and that is about when you have a plan, right? So now that you're becoming more self-aware and your left foot's being put on the floor and you have a certain routine and you're activating your brain, you're getting it going. But now let's talk about something about more of a long-term plan, or it could even be a short-term plan. And I think this is something that you're equating when you were back flying jets that you really had to do, especially how close you got. I mean, I've literally seen it.
How close do you think it is?
It looks to me like you guys are within 10 feet of each other.
Oh, less.
Wing to wing.
Less.
It's insane.
It is insane. It's actually 36 inches, 3 feet. That's where we're normally at, okay? And by the way, we're not side by side, we're tucked in underneath.
Yeah.
So it's 36 inches from my glass canopy right here to that wingtip above me, which by the way is moving, okay? And we actually get down to 18 inches.
Yeah, that's insane. but this even more illustrates what I'm going to ask you about, and that is, and I used to do this in sports all the time, is really visualizing what your outcome wants to be. So tell me about what you need to do. Like actually, let's go back to your training and how that is transitioned over into, not everybody becomes a Top Gun pilot, of course, but how that practice can have.
Well, be clear, Blue Angel. Top Gun is a different organization.
Okay,
but we're good. It's all the same.
I mean, I'm generically, I'm saying the top of the top pilots that are out there.
Okay, got it.
And so you're now out there, you have a goal in mind, and rather than just like wake up and run after it, you got to really understand the path that you're going.
Yeah, perfect.
Help out.
Ironic you asked me this. So this morning, I did one of our trainings with a corporation that actually it's a healthcare group in San Diego. They're doing great work, by the way. And we're doing every week, Tuesday morning, I do an hour training with them. So we got 12. And what we covered today was exactly what you're asking about. I started with what I call the high performance zone. And what's that? It's just the gap between where you are and where you want to go. All right. So it's the classic, where's my current state? What's my future state? Clarity, by the way, is real important here. Okay. And there's always a gap. I don't care if it's in football. I don't care if it's in flying. I don't care if it's in business. Or at least there should be a gap. You need to reset your goals if there's not, right? Between where you are and where you want to go. So the real question becomes, how do you close the gap? And how do you close it quickly, right? That's what we all want to know. There's all kinds of consulting and training on helping people to define their future state. I think it's important to get that down to one sentence, especially in your personal life. Can you define what you want in one sentence? I think about your challenges with Everest and how you're going to do that. Can you define the goal in one sentence? I'm sure you could. How would you define it right now if you were going to define it?
Well, I mean, it's the thing that I've followed so far is just, the goal is really simple: to become the first NFL player to ever climb the 7 summits, period.
Beautiful.
And then the tagline below that, it takes a little more to make a champion. And then with that, it branches into all different directions, because in order to get there and stack the odds in your favor, I have to do blank, 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 blank.
There you go. Okay, perfect. So here, let me take you through. And by the way, it's in that book there, that Fearless Success book. Turn it around, flip it around. I know people can't see us, but okay, I'm going to walk you through that model because this is what I believe. I know it's worked in my life. It works on the Blue Angels and it works in life, right? And it's going to work for your Everest climb too. You're already doing this, I guarantee you, right? Okay, so the first thing we start with is it's the old vision, plan, execute, feedback loop. So, I learned this at Stanford. I went to Stanford Business School, got a chance to work in venture capital. And I remember in strategic management theory, they taught you all kinds of stuff, but the one thing that stuck to me was vision, plan, execute, feedback loop. Okay, what's the vision? Come up with a plan, execute on a plan. Here's where most people fail and most companies fail. The feedback loop. They don't have a good learning loop. Okay, because this becomes a learning loop. So, but what I've noticed, and here's the uniqueness, okay, that'll work for everybody, right? But if you want to get to the elite of the elite, we go beyond that. We just don't talk about vision, okay? You've got a vision. You articulate it very clearly. What's really matters is, do I believe? See, it's really about beliefs. So how do you instill belief in a vision? How do you get people to buy into, especially when it's not their vision? When you're, a CEO of a company or something like, how do you get people to buy into the company vision, right? How about a family? How do you get people to buy in? So that's, we can talk a lot about that. How do you create beliefs, right? And there's limiting and liberating beliefs. To me, a limiting belief is going to cause you stuckness, and they're fear-based, guarantee you. Liberating belief says there's opportunity. Usually it has to do with what my mantra now is to learn, grow, and give. Learn, grow, give. Learn, grow, give. That's what I'm constantly doing. I'm learning. Today I'm learning like crazy. Hopefully I'm growing out of this, and then I'm going to give that and share that with somebody else, right? So, but it starts with beliefs, all right? The next piece, and then I'll stop because I don't want to just keep talking. We can unpack this at your leisure, is what you were talking about, the plan, okay? And so you got to have a plan. So I know where I want to go. I believe I can get there. Now I got to come up with a plan. All right. And the Blue Angels, it's 120 days. It takes us 120 training flights. So our spring training or pre-training is 120 flights before we do one air show in front of the public. 120 of those. So, and we're flying twice a day and we're knocking these things out, right? And that allows us to get to that level of closeness. Now that's a plan. It's structured. There's a standard operating procedure. I know what I'm doing. We brief before every flight. We debrief. There's all kinds of things that are involved in that. But my point there is, it's not about the plan. Okay, that's I call it the 1%. I want to go into the 0.01%. I want to go to the top of the top, right? I want to go to elite. Everyone's got a plan, or at least you should, right? The real question is, are you prepared? Are you focused? See, that's the key. How do you focus your mind? How do you get yourself prepared? And the tool of visualization is exactly what we used on the Blue Angels. The same thing you said you used playing ball is exactly what we did in Blue Angels. Now, here's what's cool, because I don't think, you have to tell me if you ever did this on a team. I know I never did. I didn't play pro ball, but I played college. A group visualization. When we're in the Blue Angels, and I got video of this, you can jump on the website, I'll show it to you sometime, where we're all squeezing our hands and closing our eyes. The boss is going over the voice calls in the exact tone and inflection and timing that we're going to see airborne. And it's something like this. It goes, up we go. And on the G of go, I'm closing my eyes. I'm visualizing. I'm putting backstick in because I know that we've made a contract, and on the G of go, he's going to start putting backstick in. My job is to match him. And, up we go, adding power. On the P of power, my throttle's coming forward. And I'm visualizing this to the minute detail. We walk through the entire show at that level.
Love that. Love that. I think where a lot of people, well, first of all, let me answer the last question. One of the things that we did as a team in college is, the goal back in the day, we're in the Pac-10, now it's the Pac-12. And so I went to the University of Washington, and the goal...
Hey, what years were you there?
I was there from 80 to 85, so I was there kind of during the glory years, and there was a long stretch, and then we had what turned out to be a Hall of Fame coach. He came to the players and said, "I want you to come up with what your goals are for this next year, this next football year with this team, because obviously the seniors had graduated, so it was a whole new crop." And so we came back, and they'd never had a team do this before. But rather than say win the Pac-10 championship and go to the Rose Bowl, which by the way I'd already done twice, at the University of Washington, we came up with a goal. It's my senior year to win the national title.
Yes.
Now at the end of the day, we went 12-1. We went to the Orange Bowl. We beat Oklahoma, and we ended up number 2. And we missed the goal, but we gained so much more in terms of national prominence. Just feeding that goal that we put out there, and we came really close. And that back in those days it was different because it wasn't the BCS where there's a clear winner, right?
Right.
It was just the...
Too bad. You guys would have loved that, right?
Well, BYU ended up winning it, and then out of that came the BCS because there was so much controversy about a team that goes undefeated and plays in a lesser division, right? So it just, but it opened, and in our mind, we know that we would have kicked their ass.
Exactly.
And BYU knows that we would have kicked their ass.
That's even more important.
But I think what I was going to tell you is that where I think what I find is that you don't go from Little League to the NFL. Yeah. There's micro steps all the way through high school, through college. There's indicators. You go to the combine. You do all these things before you actually go to the show. In mountain climbing, just like being a pilot, you don't go from being a Cessna to Top Gun shows, right? I mean, you got to work your way up the ladder, and it's through training.
Exactly.
And I have found, and I apply this to myself, where most people fall off is because they don't have the daily discipline of following that plan. Dog ate the homework, kid got sick, I'm not feeling right, the feet on the floor don't come down at 6 a.m., it's 7 p.m. or 7 a.m. because I was tired, because I went out too late the night before.
Yep.
I mean, it takes a full commitment, and you got to be all in.
Yeah.
You're either all in or all out. I mean, it's to me, there's no gray area. Nice. And then when you do that, then you get in this whole thing about stacking the odds against. So you put yourself in the best position of success when success is required by you, which is competitive greatness.
Oh, I love it.
And that's what it is.
Yeah. Oh, I love it. 100%. And just like football, same with flying, and same in business, same in life. Can people execute on what you just said? That's the key.
Tell me, and we just talked about this, and I love this helmet sitting here right to my right. This, what color would you say this is?
Gold.
Exactly. Gold? Okay,
yeah.
Good.
Gold
okay.
visor, too.
Okay, it's awesome. But I'm looking at this book, Fearless Success, and I love that title. And just kind of give me the quick summation about what is in here that is going to feed other people on their roadmap to success.
It's exactly what we're talking about. If you take the podcast and unpack it, it's in the book. It's just said in a little bit different words. So what it is it's actually, I reflected back on my time on the Blue Angels. So it's mostly Blue Angels stories, but it's really life stories. And it says, how do the best get better? How do you actually close that high performance zone we talked about? And so it takes someone through a journey, all right, that happened to be my journey, but it could be anybody's journey, and it applies it back into life, right? So it basically says belief levels, brief, I'm going to prepare and focus. I need to execute at a high level. I talk about taking the team to Moscow in 1992. You talk about change going on in the world. Flew against the Russians, knocked out the hero of the Soviet Union in my back seat, by the way, because we got to fly. But it's also a key element in there is about the debrief, and it's about a learning loop. How do you post films, in the league, right? How do you learn every single day, and how do you apply those learnings? Because then it becomes a spiraling up process. But the overall message, if you really want to know what this book is all about, it's glad to be here. It's about how do I live life in all its fullness. Okay? And there's a process to it. So it's a process and a mindset. But I think the more powerful piece is the mindset.
Yeah.
That's what's more powerful.
Love that. Love that. All right. Look, we are sitting right now at the World HQ of Higher Ground. All right. So I want to ask you about your involvement just for the last few minutes here about Higher Ground, the mission statement. I'm just starting to get involved with this wonderful organization, and I look forward to working with you more.
Yes, I can't wait.
And you mentioned earlier that there's 10% of your proceeds that you spread out amongst a bunch of charities, but this is one of them.
Yes.
And so I want to ask the question, why? And, what is the benefit that you see from your involvement with Higher Ground?
Well, it's the impact they make. I mean, Higher Ground is so professional. I first met a guy named Hayward Sawyer. He was our board member when I first moved here. You got to meet Hayward, by the way, if you haven't. Great guy, right? He's ex-Marine. And there's the connection, of course, to the warriors, but not just the warriors, the families, their mental and physical well-being, but not just the military, to, our people out here in the town, who have disabilities. It's making a difference in people's lives. And Higher Ground does that better than any organization I know, because it's not a one and done. It's not like just, hey, here's what we want to do. No, they follow through. They've got the programs. They've got the people. And what I found on most nonprofits is they have great missions. Higher Ground has a great mission. Everybody has a great mission. What connects me is the people, though. When you get to know Erin and you get to realize she really cares deeply about what she's trying to do, I'm more connected to the person than the cause. It's nice when they both come together, right? When they both come together.
Well, so my daughter has epilepsy, and I was approached by Higher Ground, and so we've come together, and we're holding hands, and we've come together on a project called Amelia's Everest, the Lotse Challenge.
Nice.
Yep. So we did a project, Amelia's Everest. We raised almost $30,000. The whole goal was to match the height of Mount Everest, which we did.
Beautiful.
Unfortunately, that got pushed out to next year. So we said, let's just add another mountain.
Yes.
Let's add another goal, right?
Wow.
Reset yourself. So Erin and team are here to help facilitate. We're going to come up with some wonderful event you'll be invited to.
Beautiful.
And just, hopefully we can hit that summit.
Yeah.
So that's the whole goal. And like you said, wonderful people and great organization. So for all those that are listening, check out Higher Ground. They've got just a great mission statement and really out there to help and change the world.
Yeah. And Carol and I, my wife, will commit to supporting you right now.
Great.
We'll figure that out.
Well, that's all through Higher Ground, so it's all good.
Got it. Hey, now you're not going to believe this, but we played against each other in football.
We did.
Yeah. You were redshirt. So 1980, right? You redshirted?
Yeah. No, actually 1981, but go ahead.
Anyway, okay. So, then maybe. So in 1980, I played ball for Navy, okay?
Yeah.
And we actually went out to you all at Washington.
Yeah.
And you're heavily favored. Okay.
Yeah.
That was the year you won the Rose Bowl.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
And we actually beat you. I don't know if you remember that.
Yeah, I do.
24-10.
Yeah.
And the only reason I bring it up is because we were nowhere near the athletes of you guys.
We were looking ahead.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I think that's an issue in life. I just got goosebumps is, it's not your skill level from a team that always matters, right? And I think what we're talking about here, this idea of focus, teamwork, everyone coming together, it just happened that day for us.
Well, it's also something that you said before, which is really key in this whole book, Fearless Success, which limiting beliefs.
Yes.
You didn't have a limiting belief that day.
No.
You were going to slay Goliath.
Exactly.
And you did it. And we just took you guys for granted, like, we just go out there and just, we saw the size of the guys on the front line, the O-line. We just,
well, not only O-line, look at me, man. I was the DB. I'm one of the smallest guys out there.
Yeah, but so anyways, it's really about what's forward in life, and that when you don't think you can do something, you probably won't. And if you go all in and you practice like a flipping grizzly bear, and you get after it, and you set, all the things that you've talked about, good things can happen.
Beautiful. But look what you did since then. That's what's impressive. And what you're still doing.
Well, but and I appreciate that. But I do think, I look back at it and really, I really see myself as not accomplishing that much, just because there's so much more that there's there to attack, right? So it was a goal, went through the process. Now it's cut and repeat, and use that exact same process towards the next goal. And after Everest, there'll be a new goal, right?
Yep.
So, all right. Well, listen, man, I appreciate this. Has been so much fun today to sit here and talk to a guy of your caliber here at Higher Ground, and look forward to running this podcast. And I hope anybody listening, if there's any limiting beliefs, go out there, buy this book, Fearless Success by John Foley. And by the way, where can people find you? Got a cool website.
Yeah, John Foley Inc., johnfoleyinc.com. That's kind of the corporate website. There's also a gladtobehere.com, which is more about our giving back and that kind of stuff.
Yeah, love that. All right, there we go. He is John Foley. Thank you. Hey, and thank you so much for listening to the Find Your Summit podcast. We are so glad to have you along for this journey. And if you enjoy the show, please tell a friend, share it on iTunes, spread it to the planet. We're looking to broadcast this to every person that is out there because, as you know, everybody has their own summit that they're going after. Okay, if you're looking to follow my journey, you can find that through my social links on markpattisionnfl.com. That's Mark, M-A-R-K, Pattison, P-A-T-T-I-S-O-N, NFL.com. So, until the next podcast, just remember, clear eyes, full hearts, and remember, it takes a little more to make a champion, so make it happen. Thank you. Bye.